Power is pure psychology. Some of the greatest seducers were not good looking at all. There are people who have an infecting power on you.
If you expect everybody to be good in this world, you're in a lot of trouble. You know, what are you going to do when you deal with people who aren't good?
More harm is caused in this world by stupid, incompetent people.
Act like a king to be treated like one.
There are moments where you don't want to lay all your cards out on the table. So your brain needs pressure. It needs constant pressure. Winning in the game of power is learning, is constantly learning. Most of the people who fail in life power is a feeling, it's an essence, it's an emotion, it's a human need and desire. And really, what power is a sense of understanding yourself and being able to control yourself. The feeling that you have with your children, with your colleagues, the sense that you have no control, that you can't influence them with your ideas, that you can't get them to maybe, soften some of their ugly behavior if they have that you can't get them interested in helping you with a project or whatever, is the most miserable feeling a human being can have. Malcolm X had a quote that I love, which is, absolute power corrupts, but absolute powerless corrupts even more. The feeling of powerlessness is actually more corrupting than the feeling of having a lot of power.
If you expect everybody to be good in this world, you're in a lot of trouble. You know, what are you going to do when you deal with people who aren't good? But yeah, you have to be willing to get your hands dirty.
Power is this kind of invisible realm that envelops society where people are continually battling each other and struggling in it. If you want to move people, if you want them to follow your ideas, if you want them to be more aligned with your politics or your ideas, you have to be subtle. You have to learn psychology. You have to learn certain aspects of how to almost move people without them realizing it in certain directions. And if you're not interested in that, if you're just going to tell people what you think and what you're going to do, that means you're not interested in practical action. You're not interested in results. You're just interested in venting your own frustrations or your own anger. You want to feel that you have a degree of control over events in your life, over people, over your future.
The power game is all about psychology. It's not about money. It's not about who you can push around. It's all about psychology. And it begins in how you think of yourself.
If you set your own value by what you believe about yourself. If you think that you're worthless, if you're not very good at it, other people pick that up. If you project strength, that you have this air of confidence, that you believe in what you're doing, that you believe you're worth it, it projects itself to other people. You don't have to scream and shout, and you don't have to demand $10 billion. But if you feel confident, if you feel you're worth this amount of money, it will project outward to other people.
If you think that you are worthy of something great, that you were destined to create something great when you were born, it translates into other people feeling that off of you. I have a law in 48 Laws of Power called act like a king to be treated like one.
There are people, and a lot of people out there, whose circumstances have made them what's going on. It's not their fault. There are other people you have to recognize that the bad things that happen to them are things that they have brought on because they have this infecting power. It comes from a deep insecurity. You don't want them in your life. Being around insecure people will make you insecure. Being around confident people who kind of know what they're doing, who've got their act together, who are trying to make things and accomplish things. Because there's so many people out there who talk and talk and talk but never do anything. Being around people who do things, who get things done, who've made a business, who've made this, that, or the other, they're gold to be around because they'll infect you with their positive energy.
So if you're so familiar that everybody knows what you eat in the morning, how you dress yourself, if that camera's on you 24/7, there's no mystery around you at all. You're so familiar, you're so banal, there's no extra presence to you, there's no glamour. So learn to create some mystery around you. Mystery, where people don't really know what you're up to, is a form of saying less than necessary, where you make people think about you when you're not there. Just being aware that revealing everything about yourself isn't really a sustainable form of power, that sometimes not revealing who you are is actually the higher form of power.
So it's not like you disappear so that you are a little bit less present. You're able to disappear for a while and you make people wonder about you. Napoleon said, if I show up at the theater every night in Paris in my little emperor's box, people start taking me for granted. If I show up once a month, it's like an event. That's the dynamic of absence and presence. If you come every 2 or 3 days, nah. If you come every week, nah. Come a month, yeah. If you come every year, people will forget about you, won't have any power. power. You have to know exactly the dynamic.
So develop the habit of thinking that people are disguising something. It's not nefarious, it's not evil. You're just thinking that the appearance that they have, being so confident, so strong, might actually be concealing deep insecurities, or that dramatic, charismatic person might be hiding deep levels of irrationality and even madness.
Every single human being has self-absorption traits. We can't help it. We naturally think of ourselves first. Yes, there are people who are much deeper narcissists in life, no doubt. And there are toxic narcissists, but we all have a touch of it. I want you to be a little more humble in this world and not be so arrogant and not think that you are somehow exempt from having a dark side, that somehow you were born with a halo over your head, that you were born different, you don't have human nature, that you're a saintly person, you're much better. Get rid of your moral superiority, because I find that deeply offensive. We are all cut from the same cloth. We all have the same flaws, but it's the only way to change yourself is to be aware that you have these issues. But if you go around in life thinking, I don't have any of these problems, I'm not a narcissist, you're never going to have the awareness to stop the fact that you are actually one.
If you're the pleasing type, which is your whole strategy in life is pleasing other people, it doesn't come from a place of security. It comes from a place of deep, deep insecurity. You don't understand really who you are, and so you're always trying to please people. We can sense, we can smell people's insecurities, and trying so hard to please and trying so hard to be nice secretly indicates that you're actually very weak inside.
So in your brain, when you're feeling that barometric pressure, it's like, I gotta get this done. You work like a fiend. Energy, your whole body responds. Your blood gets moving. You accomplish things. You take away that pressure and you don't know what to do. So your brain needs pressure. It needs constant pressure. And stress and pressure is not a bad thing. We have this thing where we feel like stress is bad. You know, you need to relax, man. You need to chill. Stress will kill you. No, being bored will kill you. So feeling that pressure, it makes your eyes pop open. It makes your brain focus. It makes you alert. It makes you want to live. It makes everything seem exciting to you because you've got to get things done. Create pressure for yourself is a good thing.
Your laziness is something that has to do with you. You're not connected to something deep enough. You don't feel the necessity. You don't feel the devil at your heels. You don't feel the fact that you could very well die tomorrow that will impel you to get something done. There's no necessity behind it. And the human animal, the way we were created, is when we feel pressure, we feel the necessity to get things done. We can move mountains.
You are responsible for the things that happen in your life. You're the agent of what is good and what is bad. And when something bad happens to you, your natural tendency will be to look out in the world and blame this person, blame your mother, your father, your wife, your boss. But in fact, there's always a kernel of yourself that is to blame for what happened. And so the process that's involved that I talk about in the book is you look at yourself and you examine how perhaps something you did, something you said, something in your planning was wrong, and that was what caused this problem. And that should be a liberating thing, because what that means is you have power. You're not dependent on mommy or daddy or boss or whomever to please you, to bring you what you want. You are the one responsible for it.
Most of the people who fail in life have reached a level of power, a position, but they can't go any further. They hit a ceiling because they don't know how to adapt. They only have one way of responding to circumstances. I wish people understood that and weren't so rigid about everything that they do. Your ability to flow and change and adapt to circumstances. The worst things that people do is you're out in the work world and you need to hire somebody. You need to find a colleague. You need to find a partner or an employee. Your mind naturally gravitates towards a friend because they know you, you trust them, you have a relationship, and you feel comfortable with them. And it's a terrible mistake. So many of the worst things that have happened in history are because of that very problem. Friends, there's all these emotions involved between people, and those emotions confuse the issue. When you need to get results, you need to think, when you have a job or something, you have to think in practical terms, not in terms of emotions, not in terms of friendship. You want to keep your work world separate. It's not everything about life is having to be friends and having nice things and everybody like you. Sometimes what matters is getting results done. And sometimes the best person to work with isn't your friend because they don't have all this other stuff that we're talking about. There are people who have an infecting power on you. They're surrounded by all kinds of drama. They continually present themselves as the victim of
of other people. Whereas in fact, they're the ones that constantly draw this drama to them because that's how they survive. And you're going to find yourself involved with them, and it's going to be horrible to get out of the relationship. You're going to feel guilty. So develop the power to recognize them before you get involved.
A very powerful move is if there's an enemy out there, somebody who you never got along with. If you approach them and say, let's bury the hatchet. I have a job and I'd really like you to work with me. I know you're really smart. That turnaround of emotions is a very powerful thing where they're going, yeah, sure, that's great. I never expected that. And they're highly motivated to now prove they're worthy of your change of mind.
Being attacked is a sign that you are important enough to be a target. You should relish the attention and the chance to prove yourself.
If everything is easy in life, everyone loves what you're going to do, and you have no enemies, you have no opposition, nothing to resist, you're just going to be mush. You're not going to amount to anything. You're not going to be able to push yourself. You're not going to be able to change, evolve. Muhammad Ali said, if I didn't have Joe Frazier around, I would not have become the great boxer that I am. A nemesis like Joe Frazier put me on a much higher level. Interaction with boldness. So most people are just too timid in life. They're afraid of failure. They're afraid of making mistakes. If I never try anything, I never have to put up with criticism, never have to put up with people scrutinizing me. So most people end up being too shy, too timid in life. And you've got to get over that. And you've got to learn how to be bold with your ideas and with your actions. Defeat and failure is the greatest thing that could ever happen to you. Failure teaches you your limits. It makes you realize what you did wrong. It shows you what you could do differently. Great generals in battle, that's what they would learn. The greatest general in history, I believe, was Napoleon Bonaparte. And Napoleon Bonaparte had 10 years of the greatest success anyone has ever had in military history. He crowned himself emperor, and then he had 8 years or 10 years of the most abysmal failures. And the world's success and great things happen by being not conservative, by being open with your ideas and challenging yourself and always trying something new and being willing to change.
So much depends on reputation. Reputation is the cornerstone of power. Through reputation alone, you can intimidate and win. Once it slips, however, you are vulnerable and will be attacked on all sides. Never let others define it for you.
You don't realize that so much of the game of power has nothing to do with data and you being a better person at something. A lot of it is pure psychology and intimidating people and winning before you even enter into a battle. If you have a reputation, you carry it with you. Power is pure psychology. And what I mean by that is people rise to positions of power because they know how to play the game, and they know how to play the game of psychology. They know how to appear, they know how to play the optics. They know how to intimidate. They know how to say less than necessary. They know all the psychological little gambits.
There are moments where you don't want to lay all your cards out on the table. You want to either create a little bit of mystery so that people don't know what you're going to do next and they're wondering what you're going to do next.
The first thing you should never do is be in a hurry for power, because that's going to cause you to make all kinds of stupid mistakes. You're going to think that getting attention and recognition and getting people to love you and like you and admire you is power, and you can do that tomorrow by being charming and brilliant and witty. It's not sustainable. So the only form of power that's sustainable is one that you build over time, that's based on something real, that's based on your own skills that you have, on your own experience that you have. And the more patient you are in the game of power, the tougher you will be and the more powerful you will become. So your impatience is the greatest impediment of all to any kind of power.
When you catch people by surprise, there's somebody in your office and you don't know whether they're a snake, you kind of approach them from an angle and you surprise them and you come up to them and they look at you. And for a second, you detect what we call a micro expression of disdain. And then they put on the smile. That micro expression, you have to be able to read it, but it reveals whether they actually like you or they're totally false.
Do not be the 𝐋𝐚𝐰𝐬 𝐎𝐿. The ability to express wonder and amazement and seem like you mean it is a rare and dying talent, but one still greatly valued.
Cynics start from a place where they know everything. You take everything for granted. We are born into a very, very strange and mysterious and wondrous world. So your ability to wonder, to ask questions, to not feel like you know all the answers isn't a beautiful thing. It's not just to make you more intelligent, it also makes you happier. Cynicism reduces everything to this one level. When you're a cynic, you're missing the beauty of life. But also people don't like to be around cynics.
Seduction is a high form of power because you make people feel pleasure. You make them feel excited or interested in you, and then their resistance to your ideas slowly lowers, and you have the ability to influence them and to move them in the direction that you want. If you're subtler, if you're more seductive in your approach, if you're more indirect, people will do what you want or go in your direction without ever even realizing. What makes for a great seducer is very simple. I can summarize it very simply. You are outer directed. The times where you get the sense that people are actually interested in who you are as an individual is pretty rare. If you give that feeling to someone, it's incredibly powerful because we all want to be validated. We all want to be recognized. The seducer is not someone who's all worried about him or herself and thinking. They're involved in the other person. They're absorbed like a sponge. So if you're replaceable, you will be replaced. So the only defense against that is to be irreplaceable in this world. And the good news is that you are at your core irreplaceable. And so what the game of life involves is knowing your uniqueness, is knowing who you are, is knowing what makes you weird and what makes you odd. And if you lose that, not only are you not going to be successful in life, you will also lose yourself, and you will be unhappy, you'll be unfulfilled, you'll be alienated from who you are.